I think it's ridiculous. I think it's unacceptable. I think it's un-American. And it's an over-politicization of what should be an area of compromise. We should be working together with the member of the Armed Services Committee. And Hegseth and Trump should be focused on our enemies in Iran instead of members of Congress that should be on their side and working together.
Again, Paul, that we have, because now we've got all polls closed, as I said, 2 time zones in Indiana. So some of them closed at 6 o'clock Eastern. We've got more counted than the ones that just closed here just within the past 10 minutes. Excuse me. We'll see if we're able to make any calls. The 4 that you're looking at here, there are 7 total. Right now, you have one of them with very little of the vote in. You do have the incumbent ahead. In 3 of the others, the Trump challenger is ahead. Extremely tight, though, in one of those. And again, there's so few in that it's very hard to know if this is actually indicative of which way this is going to go.
Here's what we know. This is the first battle in the war for the future of the Republican Party. This is a party struggling to define itself. It's going to be a war between the moderates and the Trumpists. And now you've got essentially Trump fighting Mike Pence in a state that they should have a lock on. But now they're eating their own. They're fighting amongst themselves. And I think it's reflective of what we may see before, during, and after the midterms, especially, and definitely as we go toward 2028, where the Republicans have to figure out, are they going to be Donald Trump, or are they going to be Mike Pence, or are they going to break in half? And I think you're going to see a similar fight in the Democratic Party. You're going to have the AOC, Democratic Socialists against the more moderate, national security centrists, and there's going to be a war between both parties. And here's what's interesting about Indiana: over 40% are independent. Right? And they're not even in this discussion, right? You got closed primaries. Most of the folks in the state aren't participating. And that's where the real action is. That's going to be where the action is for the midterms. And that's definitely where the action is going to be for the presidential when we get to 2028.
Fascinating when you say 40% of them are independent. I mean, Adam, back on the ground, I know you went door to door with some of the Republicans that Trump had targeted. What did voters say? When they approached them and brought this up and introduced these are Republican voters. How did the voters feel about the situation, right? That Trump wanted revenge against these individuals. And these, by the way, these people that are there, most of them have been elected again and again and again by Indiana Republican voters. They're not unknown to Indiana Republicans.
Yeah, Aaron, a lot of the voters that I talked to are anti-establishment. And, for years, they voted against whoever they felt in Washington was the establishment. And some of the voters I talked to felt that Trump, in some ways, has become the establishment over the last 2 years or so in his return to Washington. And so they don't like Washington putting its thumb on the scale here in Indiana, no matter whether it's a Democrat in the Oval Office or whether it's a Republican. There's a strain not just of independents, but of libertarians. This is a very libertarian state. Ron Swanson, who was famously caricatured on the NBC show Parks and Rec, is sort of a good representation of that. Someone who doesn't like federal government spending, doesn't like to be taxed, doesn't like to be regulated. And, that's a key feature, kind of a lot of the Republican voters who I talked to as I went door to door.
It's really incredible that Trump has become the establishment. And when you talk about tests, you're saying this is just the start, Paul. Okay. Take a look. In 2 weeks, you've got Thomas Massie. Okay. Now, this is Trump. Trump has tried to eviscerate this guy, literally, probably, to eviscerate him. Trump has done everything he can. I mean, just listen to things he said, because Massie took him on the Epstein files. Here's Trump.
You have a guy like this loser, Massie. He's a real loser.
Massie's a complete and total disaster as a congressman and, frankly, as a human being.
We have guys like Tom Massie in Congress, who's terrible. He's just terrible, terrible person.
Trump has put an extraordinary amount of political capital into defeating Massie. That is going to be something to watch, to see, if Massie prevails.
He has to, because, again, it's a fight for the soul of the Republican Party. And Massie's also going to say no deficit. He's going to say no Iran war. He's going to say no more forever wars. And he's going to say Epstein a lot. And the question becomes, does Massie have a place in the Republican Party? And if he doesn't, is there another lane? Is there a third party? Is there an independent lane? Massie's also the guy working with Ro Khanna across the line on many issues. And I've posed this question to Ro Khanna on my show a couple weeks ago. Will you leave the Democratic Party? I think there's this moment where you could see someone like Don Baker Bacon, the Republican moderate in Nebraska. You see Massie. They will either become the future of the Republican Party, or they might be driven out of the Republican Party, either into something new or into an independent, unaffiliated space, which is wide open for whoever gets there first.
It's really incredible.
It appears Senator Mark Kelly may avoid punishment for that "do not follow illegal orders" video that he appeared in with other members of Congress. An appeals court today heard arguments and seemed very skeptical about Hegseth's effort to try and demote Kelly.
These are people who serve their country. Many of them put their lives on the line. And you're saying that they have to give up their retired status in order to say something that is a textbook example taught at West Point and the Naval Academy, that you can disobey illegal orders.
I want to bring in Iraq War veteran and founder and CEO of the Independent Veterans of America, Paul Rieckhoff. Thank you for joining. I've appeared before Judge Pan many times. It seems very clear where she seems to be heading in her ruling. But the appeals court in general likely to rule in Senator Kelly's favor. But he thinks that the case may actually go to the Supreme Court. Do you have any concerns about the national precedent that could be set here, or even the chilling effect that this process might cause?
Absolutely. I think that's already happened. I mean, this is a direct attack on free speech for all Americans, for all veterans, and for all military retirees. He's one of 2 million military retirees. He's also a decorated Navy combat veteran. He's an astronaut. He's also a member of the Armed Services Committee. And right now, this attack is really about whether or not he has the right to free speech that he fought and other people have died to defend. So I think it's ridiculous. I think it's unacceptable. I think it's un-American. And it's an over-politicization of what should be an area of compromise. We should be working together with the member of the Armed Services Committee. And Hegseth and Trump should be focused on our enemies in Iran instead of members of Congress that should be on their side and working together.
What's the impact on current service members? They must be following this to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, the message is if you speak out, you could be punished. They could come for your retirement. They could come for your rank. They could identify you and name you, which has also got a chilling effect. They could intimidate you. I mean, there's all kinds of hate and attacks that are coming at Senator Kelly and his family. His wife is also a hero. I mean, right? Everybody knows Gabby Giffords and what she's gone through. So their entire family is in the crosshairs here. And that's the intent. The intent is to chill their speech, to intimidate the members of the Senate, and to intimidate all Americans. So anybody who's ever been in the military and is retired is now thinking about maybe something they posted on Facebook or a video they might have sent out. And that's the impact. They want to shut people up. And not just the retirees, but also active duty military. And I think that is having an impact.
On active duty in particular, who don't likely speak out publicly when they have a disagreement with their, superior officers, does it somehow suggest that they might be compelled or feel compelled to follow orders that they believe are illegal if this is the consequence?
Everybody knows not to follow illegal orders. It is so basic. They teach it in basic training at West Point, at all the academies. I mean, their video was almost redundantly obvious. I mean, everyone knows that already. I think it was entirely, the video, if anything, was unnecessary. So I think everybody understands the rules. What they understand now is that Hegseth and Trump are breaking the rules. They're really dragging free speech into the discourse in a way that is chilling. And it's the stuff you see in North Korea. I mean, it's not what we see here in America. And we have to remember, the war is unpopular. It's also unpopular among veterans, and it's probably unpopular among the troops if we could poll them. This is another way of trying to keep them in line for a war that is unauthorized and increasingly unpopular by the day.
Paul Rieckhoff, thank you so much.
You're welcome, Laura.
Archipelago, he tells me the left and right are dreams for those without a clue. And when you wake, it's time to grow. And it's not cool to believe in school, but if I can say one thing, I've seen the children of the revolution and the good trouble they can bring. He says the red and blue are dead and independent is an attitude. An island in the sea of rhetoric and archipelago, he tells me the left and right are dreams for those without a clue. And when you wait, it's time to grow.
Powered by Righteous Media.